Hi, my name is Qin Leng. I'm an illustrator and I live in Toronto. Welcome to my studio. We have a new picture book coming out in May 2022. It was written by JonArno Lawson and published by Candlewick Press. It's called A Day for Sandcastles. I thought it would be a good opportunity to show you around my studio, give you a little tour, and also give you a glimpse of behind the scene of picture book making. Okay, so this is my studio space, which I actually share with my husband. He works in film animation. We actually both do. I work part-time in film animation. And this is my side with a collection of my favorite artists' prints and books. You have graphic novels, picture books, art books, everything, anything that inspires me, really. This is where I keep my watercolors and my inks. And over here is my work desk. It's actually a standing desk because I work at least 8 hours a day, so I really need to give my back a break sometimes. And over here is my scanner. And you'll see this is my drawer unit, drawer cabinet where I keep all my originals sort of organized. My latest work are at the top and the older ones are at the bottom, and these are some of the originals from Sandcastles, which I can bring over to the work desk and show you some of the process. So this is my workstation. It has a few of my favorite tools that I use for A Day for Sandcastles. So I have my watercolor trays, and I have a whole tray just of greens. I had so many of them. And some of the other colors. Then for inking, I use this little fountain pen. It has an extra fine nib because I draw so small with a cartridge for refill. And I use this particular ink called the Platinum Carbon ink. And it's waterproof but does not clog fountain pens, so it's amazing. I love it. And bleed proof white, I use that one a lot. It's very, very opaque white that you have to dilute with a bit of water. It's quite thick. But I used it to do the water scene, like the foam on the ocean, the waves. And then these are some of my favorite watercolor brushes. It's called Da Vinci Petit Gris. And this hair is fantastic for absorbing a lot of water. And I have different sizes for fine detail and broader washes. So next, let me show you some of the original pieces from the book. So the first step after reading the manuscript is to come up with the characters, which is my favorite part, and figure out what the world looks like, what the beach looks like. And I was lucky enough that the first year, that summer, I received a manuscript. I had planned a trip to Cape Cod with my family and my sister and partners. So it was a great opportunity to, compile a library of reference images and observe a lot of what happens on the beach, the people and the children. So these are all a whole bunch of sketches of potential characters for the book. And it's also, that stage is a good way to test the medium as well, like decide if I want to ink with a brush or if I want to ink with a fountain pen, if I want to do just watercolor or add charcoal or pencil crayons. So some of these were the very early stage color tests and concept art. Then the next step is to figure out the panel and the progression of the story. And the biggest challenge in a wordless picture book is that you don't have the words to help you tell the story. Everything relies on the images. So I was trying to think more of composition that are more cinematic, the use of panels a lot tells the story and the passage of time, play with lighting as well, because throughout the story, the day, it starts at noon or in the morning, early morning, and then it ends at the end of the day, like at dusk. So I had to really work on tracking the sunset throughout the whole book. And my sketches are really tiny. I find I work better if I work quick at this first stage. So the quick and dirty drawings. That way it's easy too. If I have any revisions from the publisher, from the author, I can quickly go back to my sketchbook and whip out something else, a new idea. Because I find that this very first stage is a lot of scribbling, a lot of figure out things and tossing a lot of ideas that don't work in the end. But it's a fun process. Next are some of the original pieces. I'll show you some of my favorites. This is a scene. Again, the use of panels. I draw really small. You can see the size of these things. Really tiny. Here's another one. And here's an example of the passage of time. You know, we have the sun is setting at this point. So it goes from green to more golden, and the water is creeping into the beach, and the shadows are being overcast a little bit longer and darker. And I'll show you later too, I do a lot of photoshopping. Well, not a lot, but every now and then it'll be handy. For example, this woman, I didn't really like the original one over here, so I didn't even paint her. And then I did another version down here, which I can Photoshop later on in the computer. Here's an example of some color studies to figure out the lighting. Different options too for the last scene. I think I went with this one. No, I had a few options here. It's really nice to do little thumbnail sketches. You don't spend so much time to perfect it. This one's fun. I like, okay, so here's a little secret. So I like to include myself sometimes in my books. So this is me and my son and my husband and my sister and her partner. And this actually happened to us in Cape Cod. It was so windy that day that our umbrella was blown away. Sun umbrella was blown away on the beach and landed in somebody else's tent. But I thought it was funny to include this in the book, and only me knows. And now you do too. And here are some of my favorite larger panels. Again, another magic trick from Photoshop. I had to delete this card, but I like the rest of the drawing, so I painted it anyways and then collaged this in. And one of my favorite panels, the sunset, the return home. This is the very early morning. Nobody's awake enough to be at the beach yet, only the seagulls. And this is the last spread, the end papers. And, well, this is some other concept research work for the book. So I hope you can see this well, but this is an example of what happens after I've done my pieces traditionally on paper. I scan them into the computer and then I bring them into this what we call the Cintiq. And it allows me to draw on it and also make some very precise modification to my pieces. For example, the original was a lot more dark and it felt a little bit too gloomy and drab, so I added more filters to it. That was the original, and I made it more blue, and it even added some purple in the sky to show the dusk, like the sun is still setting over here. Like that was not there in the original, so I've added these colors in. And this is another example. This is a spread at the very beginning of the book, and I had completely forgotten to add the bus driver. She's here now, but I had done all the characters except for the bus driver, so I had to repaint her and added her in Photoshop. And same for a few other things. For example, these scribbles were not done traditionally. I actually added them in digitally with a brush, a dry brush. And same for these lines on the highway. I had completely forgotten the highways have lines to divide each lane. So it was just like this. And instead of going back on the original and kind of mess it up, I was just worried to ruin it. So I just added those lines in Photoshop. So I hope you enjoyed this little tour of my studio. Thank you for watching. If you get a chance, don't forget to get a copy of A Day for Sandcastle, published by Candlewick Press and written by JonArno Lawson. Thanks so much.